On this episode of Walk a Mile in Their Shoes, we are at the Crosstown Trail at Decker Lake Park, and our guest today is Sydney Solomon.
Hey, I am Sydney Solomon. I am a wife and a mother of three. I work as a behavioral health aide at an elementary school. I like to do art projects. I like working my yard. I like exercising and hanging out with my family. And I would like for you to walk a mile in my shoes.
Hi, Sydney.
Hey!
Thanks for coming out today.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
It's so good to see you.
Yeah, this is a cool little park,
Yeah.
I think both you and I thought we were going somewhere different today until we put in the address.
Yes.
But nevertheless, this is a really cool trail.
It's pretty. I've never been here. I like it.
I like it a lot too. Well, I hope you're ready to move around a little bit.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Walk a mile. Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and start our little odometer here. Keep us on track.
So it's like a mile stop.
Yeah. More or less.
Okay.
Lots of times it's more. But if we finish a little less than that, that's okay too.
Okay. That's okay.
So I wanted to ask you about a behavioral health aide.
Yes.
I imagine a lot of people don't know exactly what that is.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, would you be willing to share just kind of what that entails and what your typical duties are on a day-to-day basis?
Sure. I like to think I have one of the best jobs in the whole school. My job really encompasses the whole school and working with all students if I need to. Mainly, I work with a handful of students that we have some goals and things set up for, but basically my job is to be a soft place for them to land. I like to build relationships with them, work with them, help them with whatever they need, and there's a variety, whether that's being in their classroom with them, if they're working on something that's particularly hard and they struggle with that, or I go to recess with them, or they come to my room and we take some breaks. We do that a lot, and I work with a really awesome team, and we have a room that we call the Wellness Center, and they'll come there and we play games, or we hang out, or we talk, or we do some calming exercises, and it's just to help improve their day and often reteach behaviors or certain things we want reflected.
Gotcha. It sounds like challenging work.
Sometimes. It's very rewarding, sometimes challenging, but I really love it.
Yeah, that's so important that you love it.
I do.
Because there's probably a heavy amount of potential burnout with something like that.
There is. Yeah, and like I said, I work with a good team, and oftentimes if you've just been in a situation that's just going a long time and you feel yourself getting frustrated, we tap out and we trade. So that helps because there are moments like that. But when you can see the benefit of it, and especially the longer I do it, I've done it 14 years.
Yeah.
And the longer I do it, like, you get to where you just remove yourself from it and your focus is just on the student.
Yeah. Hey, and you said there's a lot of, it's really rewarding.
It is.
Would you talk more about that and what some of those rewards are?
Well, it's really nice to build relationships with some of these kids. They're really just entertaining and funny, and when they specifically ask for you, or you can know that you're doing something to help them, or you see them improving in an area, that just is amazing, and it just feels so good to watch a student get stronger.
Yeah, definitely a lot of rewards there to see that growth, and as you actually work in an elementary school, so you can see some of that growth for a long period of time.
Right.
Really 7 years up to.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's fun though.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I think that's such a privilege that you can work with children on a daily basis.
Yeah.
A question that I have along those lines is, what would you say that children can teach us as a society today?
Well, especially with the kids I work with, I really notice their resilience and just that they're willing to try things that you ask them to, and willing just to trust you and just be like, look, just try this out and see if it helps. And when it does and they get so excited for it, that's really cool. And some of these kids are going through currently at a young age something harder than I've ever had to go through. But just to watch their spirits, and they still are running and playing and happy and willing to grow and push, like it's really cool to see.
That is really awesome. They definitely are able to just kind of jump in feet first, so to speak, more so than adults.
Right, with a little less fear of looking stupid, like they're willing to do a lot.
Right. With you having 14 years of work with these young children, I'm curious if we shift our mindset a little bit to the mental health part of it, because that certainly comes up in the work that you do. I guess the question I have is what sort of gives you hope about the future of mental health based on the work that you've been doing with children all these years?
Well, I feel like it's becoming more acceptable to talk about it, where maybe in the past there was a stigma to make people feel like if they were to talk about their mental health, they would appear like they were weak or broken or anything like that. And I think there's less of that. I think our school, and I can't speak for everyone, but our school is putting those practices into place where there's that spot for kids to go to when they're having a hard time, and that it's okay for them to admit they're having a hard time and to ask for a break or to ask for help. I think that's really cool to see that they're being taught as a young age that they can say that and ask for help.
That there's kind of that less of a stigma about asking for help, or
we're trying to normalize it and just be like, that's okay, and like that's how it should be for everybody.
Right, exactly. Well, I love that you're seeing that, and that gives me hope too, that we can actually go out and ask for help when we need it.
That's not a weakness. You don't have to do things on your own.
I love that. All right. I want you to sort of make believe with me for a second along those lines.
Okay.
Let's pretend you're the queen of the world.
Right?
Okay. you have one change you can make that is in relation to a mental health change in the world.
Okay.
What do you think you would implement or change about mental health if you were in charge?
Oh, geez, I think I would probably have to be a lot more familiar with it too. Maybe my answer would be kind of silly for some people because there's a lot I don't know about it. I'm no expert. But like when I talked about our wellness center, that would just be so cool for people's works and for that kind of a place to be everywhere. For someone to say, I just need a minute and I'll be back, So it's just because I'll see these kids and we'll take 10 minutes. We literally set a timer for 10 minutes. And in that 10 minutes has changed their whole day. And some students we need more than one. Some students it's just one. But if someone was at work and they had a space where they could go to, or if they felt like it was safe for them to be like, look, I just need 10 minutes. I heard, and I can't remember where the quote was it a hard 5 minutes that you're making feel like a hard day? Or is it really a hard day, or something along those lines, where those few minutes can really change a lot, to give yourself permission, time just to go rest and breathe, and do whatever calming activity works for you, and just take that time. It would be really cool for there to be more places like that available for people to go to and take a break.
That's fantastic. A break space that's just for you. Right?
Like private, right?
Private. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm crossing my fingers that you do become queen of the world. I think you do a good job in more ways than one.
I don't know. I like to think maybe, but
you would. I if it were a voting thing, I'd vote.
Oh,
for
thanks.
Sure. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. You've talked a lot about this type of work that you do. As I mentioned before, there's kind of a high potential of burnout, and you have 3 grown kids yourself.
Yes.
So I'm really curious about what you do on a day-to-day basis to keep your own mental health strong and prevent that burnout. And what are some of the little things you do every day?
Well, one of them I'll say I actually learned from you. Something you say that you do to make, I leave work and I get home and there's a separation. So, the teachers, everyone wears a lanyard. For me, when I take my lanyard off, I take the day off. And it gets put away until tomorrow because there's nothing I'm going to do about work once I take that off and I go home. So I would give myself permission to just leave work at work. But also just with everything, I just make sure there's a balance. I feel personally like if you have a balance, especially in 4 specific areas, it just kind of helps your life. So physical, emotional, spiritual, and educational. So I try and put in effort into each of those sometime during the week. I make sure I'm learning something, I'm working on a goal, making sure I have time for exercise because that definitely helps my mental health. Make sure I'm making time for my family and my friends just to have fun and to build those relationships. And for me personally, I spend time with God. And I feel like when I have those 4 things, it kind of rounds me out a little bit.
So balance is super important, right?
Yeah.
And I totally agree with that. There may be somebody watching right now who says, well, I love that idea, but how do I do that? How do I get started? My calendar is full. What do I do to have that balance that you have, Sydney? What would you say to that person who's asking that question?
Well, just start where you are and add where you can. I also saw something online where this guy he's a doctor, and he was talking to his patients, and he's like, okay, you're trying to exercise all of this time, but it's overwhelming, and so you're just shutting down and you're not doing it. He said, can you do 5 minutes once a week?
Okay.
And he was like, okay, but then the next time he came back in, he had done more than that because he set himself an easy goal. So if you start with something small and start where you are and make it doable and plan realistically for where you are and start adding them in. I don't do all those things every day.
Okay.
But a little bit here or there, you can take 5 minutes to work on something that will help you out.
Yeah. So just a few minutes even a day, creating that balance.
Right.
Yeah.
That's how I started with some things.
Yeah, right. And you said that even you don't do those things every day.
Right.
And it seems like you're okay with that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's okay that you're not, because we don't want people to be like, well, I have to focus on this now, and I have to focus on this now, and this area next, because then we get overwhelmed, right?
Right. Because as adults, we have a lot to do, and you don't want to add more pressure to yourself. But even if your social aspect, if you want to do that, that may look like going to dinner with a friend one time or a 2-minute text another time. That just changes depending on you and what you've got going on.
Yeah. I love that you brought in kind of that idea of connecting with others, even if it's through a text, right? Yeah. Just keeping those lines open with the people that are important to us.
Right.
It's important.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you sharing. You sound like you have a pretty well-balanced way of doing things.
I try. Sometimes it's more balanced than others. And when you can feel yourself getting out of balance. And then when I do, I know what I need to do to get it back in balance. So.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that. Well, you know, it's a really important part for me in an interview like this to discuss maybe a time or two when that mental health was put to the test, right? When maybe you were severely taxed and you really needed to kind of put it all together to get through a particularly troubling or challenging situation. Would you be willing to share one of those or two of those times where you had to really dig deep to get through, and how did you do it?
Sure. I think, like I said earlier, some of these kids I work with have been through a lot more than I ever have. I have a pretty blessed, lucky life. One of the hardest things I've had to go through was, as my kids got older, my role changed. I never knew what I wanted to do growing up other than being a mom. And I loved becoming a mother, and I loved every minute with my kids, and everything I did to make myself available was for them and to do like things for them to help our family. It wasn't always only for them. I did stuff for myself too, but I do feel like through a long time of raising kids from baby all the way up through high school and into college, I did let it become my identity more than I should have. And so when they all got older and moved on, and it happened so much faster than I thought it would, because just one day I just was like, nobody needs me. What do I do? And I wasn't really sure what to do or who I was anymore. And I had to figure that out. And then it took time to remember what it was I really liked to do and how I wanted to spend my time and who I was as a person. And I feel like I've come out the other side of that, and I'm really grateful for that. And obviously I still have a great relationship with my kids. We still hang out. I'm still a mom, you know, but I'm a person too, and I don't rely on them to define who I am. So that was hard for me to go through that and figure it out, harder than I expected it to be.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's, you know, that happens all the time to people. You know, that just like, okay, well, now what? You know, this big chunk of my purpose and identity is literally gone, you know, most of the time at least. And so it sounds like you have found that, I guess, that balance of knowing who you are while also still being a mom, even as they're growing. That's fantastic. We're getting close to the end of our mile here. And so I always like to give you a chance to maybe address some people. In your case, I would actually wonder if you'd be willing to address two different people for me.
Okay.
The first person that I'm hoping you address, because of the background that you have dealing with people and children with kind of challenging and more severe behaviors. I'm willing to bet that there's probably maybe a young parent watching right now who's at a loss of how to deal with Bobby or Jane or somebody, because their behaviors are so strong. Right? What kind of advice or tips or encouragement would you give to that young parent right now?
You know, just be consistent and don't give up and go every day. My youngest was my most challenging. She would scream a lot. And there are times that I feel like I don't remember a lot for those times because it was just really difficult. And seeing that in school, those battles and those challenges are won a little bit at a time, and sometimes you don't realize how far you've come until you look back. But you just keep consistent with what you know you need to do and just keep going.
Just consistency and and as kind of the old saying goes, just kind of take it 1 minute at a time or 1 hour, 1 day at a time.
It's hard.
It is hard. It's definitely one of the most if not the most challenging work that people do, is parenthood.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing that wisdom there. The other person I'm hoping that you're willing to address is someone who's watching who may be really struggling with their mental health overall, and someone who just needs some sort of lifeline or just something to keep them going. What would you say to that person?
I would say there's always hope, even if you don't feel like it. There's always someone who will be there to help you, even if you don't feel like it. Sometimes you don't realize it until you're able to finally step out and ask. And then suddenly there's a lot of people there to help, or sometimes there's just one. But don't give up and be strong and keep going and do every little bit you can every day. And sometimes that's putting in work and sometimes that's resting. But don't give up hope, because you can make it through. You can make it through, and there's always help and hope.
Yeah, that's for sure. There is always hope. There's always help, even if it may not feel that way. There is always both of those, just ready to be had. We just have to keep at it and keep fighting for it.
I think people have a lot more strength than they realize.
Yes, I like that you say that. People have a lot more strength than they realize. Yeah, it's really easy to forget that the amount of strength that we do have.
Yeah, I think sometimes we get so afraid of something in our head, we make it harder than it actually is to do. And once we do it, it's easier than we were afraid it would be.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your thoughts and your wisdom on all of that.
Of course.
I know that'll help somebody out there who just needs something. There's a lot of people in that situation, unfortunately. Well, we are right around a mile now, and so I appreciate you being willing to share just everything that you've shared today, and the good work that you do with children. It's hard to believe that you and I broke into that game of working with children at the same time.
We did.
14 years ago.
Crazy.
And so I'm grateful for being able to have that opportunity to work with you and see the difference that you make in all those children's lives and their parents' lives, their teachers' lives. So thank you very much for all that you do.
Thank you. You taught me a lot. So I really appreciate you. And I miss working with you every day.
Likewise. Well, thank you very much for letting us walk with you, Sydney.